How do you see intuition and reason?
That's a very important question because both are necessary. So we can say that intuition is one way of receiving information and that it is not using the rational part of the person. If we are willing to agree that reason can also reveal truth, then we have the responsibility to reason about our intuitions, to subject our intuitions to the process of reason. For instance, many people may think they are getting intuitions and they are really having reactions in their emotional body. So we can't accept everything that we think is an intuition true automatically. Now, if intuition and reason are both perceiving truth, then they should come up with compatible conclusions. And if you study, for example, Platonism or the Vedanta in Hindu philosophy, this is a very important question that they spend much time explaining. The alignment or the parallel use of reason and intuition. One statement that Paul Brunton made about his books is that they were reasoned revelation. The revelation was his own inner experience, the experience of his teachers, which he accepted, and the experience of the sacred books that he studied. But because his task was to present these teachings to a Western audience who were identified with the mental body, he had to explain what he knew. So I think he is a good example of the compatible use of reason and intuition. And if you study his life or read for instance, Search in Secret India, he did not accept something as true just because a teacher said that, or the teacher's students all believed teacher said. He is a very good example of the critical use of reason, including knowledge of modern science, combined with intuition in the search of truth.
Isn't that just a phase and then you'll have to abandon it?
I would say it depends. Let us take PB as an example. At a certain phase of his life, he had to understand these things for himself, and he was very critical and did not accept everything that he was told. He studied very extensively. It is very interesting because at certain times in his life, when he had very deep intellectual questions that were not being answered, a teacher would mysteriously appear and give him the information and never be seen again. This happened in the Egypt book, and he described this happening in other places. So we can say that the hierarchies were guiding him and providing him with the necessary information to understand with his reason how everything fit together. If you read his first 10 books, he was in this process of figuring things out as he went along through reason and experience and intuition, and all the people who were reading his books were following along with him. At some time or moment, his search was ended, and the difference between the higher and the lower selves melted, and we can say that he was enlightened. At this point, the reason is no longer necessary, because he is in possession of the truth, or he is living the truth. He knows the truth. Whatever we might say about someone who is enlightened. But in Paul Brunton's case, he had a task as a sage, which was to write books and to teach people through his books. So in the case of the enlightened Paul Brunton, the reason is part of his service. His soul has developed this reason to a very perfect level. And as a journalist, he has developed the use of language to a very high level. So Paul Brunton is an example of something he says in the notebooks, that there are different types of sages, and one type is a teaching sage. There are people who have amazing energy, and you can go meditate with them and have amazing experiences, but they can't explain anything. Now maybe that's not necessary in that case, but the universe or the hierarchy seem to want that we have teachers who are capable of reason and who can explain things according to reason and logic. using all the available information. I'll just comment that these questions are very essential questions, and there are certain questions that naturally come up at certain points. So, for example, in P.B.'s book, The Wisdom of the Overself, after he has explained mentalism in the hidden teaching beyond yoga, he says certain questions now will naturally come about. That shows us that the reason is following a path. You could say that it is following the geography of universal intelligence. And as you answer one question, other questions come up automatically and naturally. And these are questions that have been asked for thousands of years. The relationship between reason and intuition, the need for reason after enlightenment. What is a valid source of knowledge? After all, we are here to understand eternal truths. So to me, the fact that we are asking these questions shows that we are on the right track, and also provides an example of how I understand and refer to reason.